Starting. We are live. Okay, it'll catch up in a few seconds on the YouTube side. And I got it set up on the gun channel side too, so we should be okay. All right. All right, everybody ready?
Sure.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, guys, I want to thank you for joining me. This is Caliber Corner number 6. Let's see who's with us joining in. We got Travis M. Travis actually joined the Hangouts for a little while. He's all set up now, and he believes he's a new member of gunchannels.com. So hooray for Travis M for joining. We got Grim90 sitting out there right now on the YouTube side. Let's see, over on the gun channel side, it looks like we've got Doug and Patrick are out there also. And guys, I want to thank my panel for joining me today. We're going to be doing part 2 of reloading. If you want to check out part 1, check out Caliber Corner number 5. So starting from my left, if you guys want to plug your channel, plug a program that you host, a podcast, you can do that. AWAG, we will start with you.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, man, we're doing good. Doing good. Are you awake?
Barely. I need another cup of coffee.
Oh,
Thanks
I'm
for the
number
invite
2.
Anyway.
Number 2. Yeah. Do you have any videos coming up in the near future? Anything on your channel on YouTube?
I may have a video out today if a guy texts me back. I have some stuff to do. It's gonna be actually a pretty sad time though.
Picking up your car or what?
Yeah, my car's gonna be on the back of a flatbed. It's gonna be hauled away.
Oh, you haven't gotten the clutch fixed on it yet?
No.
The Saga of the Superman. That's, hey, as a CPX owner, Sky CPX2 owner, I know exactly how you feel. I had to have it sent off and watch it going away in the FedEx truck and then get it back, and it's just not perfect. So
you should have kept that Jimenez.
You know, I can go get another one at SS Pond for $120. I might just go pick another one up. Who knows? All right, Foos, thanks for joining us, man. You want to say anything this morning?
God, Jimenez.
The joke was his Jimenez JA9 worked better than his
worked. It did. I had no problems with it. It was a very accurate gun, actually. Yes, I know it's the bane of all handguns, but I had fun shooting it. Boost, you got any programs you want to plug or any channels? Anything you want to tell us before we roll on?
Nope.
No. All right. Okay, thanks for joining us, Boost. I know you're a little time limited, so we'll get right into it after we introduce the panel. Night Strike, what do you want to say, man?
I need more sleep.
Ah, shut up.
Oh, come on. Hit or miss. Palmetto State Armory. Come on. You got a whole fucking...
All right, fine. Don't miss hit or miss Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock. And, yeah, buy PSA. There you go.
Here we go. Contemplating it. I
should be getting royalties or something for saying that all the damn time.
Oh, you're going after that big PSA money now, huh? You should call him and ask him for a tester gun. Tell him to do a video on a demo gun.
I wish.
Just email him, man. The answer is always no if you don't ask. Seriously.
No, there is no answer if you don't ask.
Come to your house and
no. If we take Never Enough Ammo's position, yeah, they just won't email me back. So you know.
I had the same experience with an aftermarket trigger company located here in Nebraska, of all things. I gave him a nice description and said, I'd love to borrow a T&E. I will send it back to you. Didn't hear from him. I was like, really? Really? Okay, whatever. Hey, Squib, what do you want to say, man? Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. Can't think of anything to say. I guess I'm not awake either.
Oh, that's fine. Like I said, it's early, man. It's early. I need to have coffee, some Black Rifle coffee shipped to you guys, I think. All right. Tony, thanks for joining in, man. Oh.
Hey.
I'm impatient as usual. I'm sorry, guys. Tony, do you have any programs that you want to plug?
If you're not frightened of being offended, check out the early watch whenever the hell we managed to get it on.
Oh, man. That's awesome. I love listening to that. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's whenever it shows up. So
there we go.
Subscribe to it, and then whenever it pops up on your phone, click watch and watch it.
Excellent. Excellent.
A little hard to get reliable hosts. Got jobs and stuff, you know.
I've been in a couple times, and it was a lot of fun. It was a blast.
Yeah, I've been in during some times where I was off, and yeah, it's fun.
Very cool. Well, hey, before we start, we have a few more guys that just joined us, a few more listeners watching out there. We've got E-Rock. We've got Sean Callanan's in with us, Mad Sexy Man of the Night. And let's see, you got anybody else on the gun channel side?
How did you know my porn name?
Who?
Oh,
What?
jeez.
No, it's a guy on YouTube.
Oh,
Yes.
Man, Google. Google. What can I say? So, all right. Okay, guys. Well, let's just jump right into it. We're doing part 2 of reloading. We covered part 1 last week, and if you want to, anybody listening or watching, if you want to see what we talked about, you can go back and check it out. And we're now down to components. We are going to talk about brass. Everything you need to know about brass, because again, that's probably one of the most important parts. Where do you guys source your brass? Can you get it locally? Do you notice ranges like to keep their own brass? Where do you ever buy it? And if you do, where do you go? Anybody jump in?
so I've bought probably 10,000 cases over the past several years. But whenever I buy them in like, well, I bought one in a 5-gallon bucket, and the only reason I bought that is because it was a hell of a deal. Well, actually, no. I'm talking just 9mm here. 9mm. So it was a heck of a deal. It was like $10 shipping. It came down to under 2 cents a case, which right now, if you'd buy it, it's about 2.5 cents a case. So always break it down to shipping everything. How much is it per case, and are you willing to pay that per case? I have about 30,000-ish pieces of brass, and I bought 10,000. So the other 20,000, you bend over and pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, there's so many people out there that just leave it.
I've recently got into 44 Magnum, and people don't leave that brass. I can't
That's
find
true.
it. So I have to buy it, but I just shop locally. I generally find that if I look around a little bit, I can find better deals than I can find online for it. As far as 9mm stuff, my range is $25 1,000.
Mhm.
So I just buy it there.
What
I
about
pick a lot of mine up.
okay? What about 3030? Because that I can't buy it. I can't find it reloaded online, and so I'm stuck paying new prices. Is 3030 brass readily available from what you guys see when you look around?
Fairly.
I can get it locally at a gun shop. They have it there, but I think it was 20 cents a case, same as 30-06.
Okay.
That's pretty cheap if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cheaper than I can find it anywhere else.
Yeah, that's usually whenever you go larger, like rifle cases like that. That's not a 223. Usually, of course, I'm emphasizing that because this is not the case for everything. It's closer to 50 cents a round, 50 cents a case for that bigger stuff. So if you get less from that, that's good.
Yeah, because
If
I
you're already invested in reloading, buying new cases isn't really that expensive compared to buying the ammo. But if you're trying to justify the cost, it might just be that you're trying to do some hand load, something special, something like that. Here's Hornady 303 British. Here's PPU 762 by 54 rims. Here's Lapua 762 by 53 rims. All this stuff I bought online, it wasn't that bad. It might seem a little pricey at first, but you could reuse this over and over again. I prefer rig pickups. I prefer to buy new ammo, shoot it, and then reload it. But this stuff is all available. If you don't have a local supplier, like a Bass Pro Shop or a sporting goods store that has this stuff, you can buy this stuff online from so many dealers.
That is the thing that you need to point out is that brass is the one-time expense. You don't have to buy that every time you load. You get to use it over and over a lot.
Very good point.
Very true. You also have to think on a lot of the bigger stuff, where you go out and you see brass is 50, 60 cents a case. The best way to get once fired rifle brass is to buy it first, shoot it, pick it up. Most of the, for like, I'm talking about your 30-06 hunting cartridges, your your 8mm if you want brass, your a lot of that stuff. Unless you already have everything to make it, buying it and shooting it is the quickest and easiest way to do that. Because I mean, think about it. If you spent 25 to 30 cents per projectile for jacketed projectile, and then let's say 50 cents for a case. Just those two in itself, you're already up to 80 cents. 2.5 cents for a primer, and then it could be anywhere from 10 to 12 cents for a rifle cartridge because of the volume it needs, how many grains. So right there, you may be getting up really close to what your store-bought ammo is.
Yeah. Talking about, go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, don't be afraid to stop into the hole-in-the-wall old school gun shop and look either. Mm-hmm. Because these guys could be sitting on thousands of 30-06 cases that are milsurp theoretically once fired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we travel, when we take family vacations and stuff, I try to sneak away whenever I can to go to gun stores that I wouldn't normally go to because they're not in my area. And every now and then I'll find something. I'll find supplies that maybe they're out of locally, or I was in Jeremy Pozderick from We Like Shooting. His gun shop's in Northern Ohio. It's River's Edge Tactical. He had a couple buckets of once fired brass in there for sale. It wasn't any calibers that I was looking for, so I didn't even price it. But I mean, he's got a small shop, but there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So whatever you're looking for, you don't be surprised if you can find it in a small shop.
Okay. So there's definitely sourcing it. You just want to definitely check your prices,
If you're at a range, don't be afraid to ask people what they're going to do with their brass.
Yes. I get a lot of free brass that way.
Oh, definitely.
They'll ask, they'll say, what are you doing? Why are you picking that up? I mean, they do, at my range, they tell you you're supposed to clean up afterward, and a lot of people don't. They're just lazy to come up there. They bang away on some paper and turn around and leave. And as far as I'm concerned, that's just my opportunity. I go in there like a buzzard. But people see me cleaning up my brass or other people's brass or whatnot, and they'll say, what are you doing? And I say, I reload. And they'll say, what's reloading? To them, the next thing they say is, would you like my shell casings? Because now they don't have to clean up. They don't have to go sweep up or throw away. Or if it's a revolver, they'll put it right back in the box for me. So got lots of free brass that way. People are real nice if you just talk to them, and they'll sit there and they want to hear about this. There are people that are getting into guns or that have been into guns, but but maybe not every facet of firearms. That when you start explaining it to them, they're kind of fascinated. So
cool. Yeah, again, just chat with people, communicate with people, and you should have a nice steady supply of brass, man. Hey, we do have a question here out in the chat. Potatoes and Lead Ohagan, he says, how many times can you reload Magnum calibers like 357 or 44 mag? How about something like 338 Lapua?
If it's a straight walled case, reload it until the case neck cracks. I know this isn't going to be a Magnum case, but I went and I marked one brand new 9mm. I quit counting after 45 loads.
Reloads.
What people don't take into account is that what decreases case life is the working of the brass. So necked cartridges do not last as long as straight walls.
Okay.
Part of that's due to the pressures, like Magnum cases and handguns develop pretty good pressure, but they do not tend to flow brass because they don't have the neck. So the handgun cases last a long time.
Infinitely longer.
There you go.
Your 223s, that there is more brass prep because you do have to go ahead and neck size it, trim it, stuff like that. So
let's talk about this, like important components and design of the brass. What is the difference of the Berdan versus boxer priming, just in case somebody accidentally should happen to mess up a piece of their reloading equipment because they didn't know what the case was? What is the difference between the two, like the actual design of the shell? What is the difference?
It's where the anvil is.
Yeah, Berdan primers have 2 flash holes, theoretically more consistent, but they're almost always, in my reading, corrosive.
Well, so it's not that they're corrosive. It is, that a lot of militaries did it because it's an easier way to build a cartridge, because the anvil is actually part of the piece of brass. Okay. So because they have to cut the area for the flash hole and everything. I mean, not the flash hole, but the well, they have to cut the flash hole too, but they have to cut an anvil and everything. I mean, not the anvil, the primer pocket. So it's easier to cut the primer pocket there instead of making a separate piece to go into the primer. So it's where the anvil is, and what the anvil is what your firing pin strikes to start off the chemical chain reaction of firing a round. So there's this pressure sensitive compound in there that whenever your firing pin hits this anvil, there's enough pressure to start the chain reaction. Instead of that anvil being in the actual primer for a boxer, the Berdan, it's actually on the case.
They are slightly larger in diameter too, are they not?
Yes. And if you ever hear with boxer primer, is this a large or small? With Berdan, there's multiple smalls, multiple larges. So there's not a consistency.
In order to reload old brass that's Berdan primed, you've got to do extra steps to it. It's typically not reloaded. You'll know if you've got a Berdan case in your press pretty quick. And if you're stubborn like me or forgetful, which I can be sometimes, you will do damage. Tony brought up last week that when you're ordering supplies, it's a good idea to order extra decapping pins. So I don't know if you guys can see this because my camera work sucks, but this is a decapping die. Okay, it's from a Lee set, and it's shaped for the brass. It'll reshape the brass, and also going down the center is a decapping pin. And the decapping pin, there is a universal decapping die, which is just a rod with a pin at the end. That'll decap anything. It'll pop the primer out the back. You can see the primer pocket right here. These are primers right here. These small little, you put those back in with another setup. So get one that's caliber specific. Not only will it reshape the outside of the brass, but the pin is actually, it's rounded out for going down the neck here, if I can do this right, going down the neck to reshape that. And you've got a little tighten it down and whatnot, and it goes in the press, and it's just another process. Well, I shoved some Berdan brass. Here it is. The head stamp says 1942. I shoved some Berdan prime brass in there, and I got resistance. And instead of stopping to take a look, I just reefed on that thing, and I bent the pin. Let's see, where's the camera? I bent the pin. You see this little, it's not supposed to be hook shaped. Sorry about the light there. It's not supposed to be hook shaped like that. Here is a brand new pin in the package from Lee. Here, let me take that out. So it's I think it's like $3. It's not a bad idea if you're ordering new dies or you're ordering other supplies to just throw on some spare parts. Now the other manufacturers, they've got different decapping pins. I've ordered those too. Sometimes that stuff's on back order, so when it comes into stock, pick them up. So Lyman and Hornady and all the other manufacturers have their own versions, but you can see the difference. There it is straight. There it is after I tried to pop a Berdan primer out.
Man.
Yeah. So
we could really see it there. Yeah.
Or 350 or whatever it was. It's live and learn. But this isn't the first time I've done that with this particular caliber. I hadn't loaded it in so long. I forgot, and it really is just I don't even want to call it a simple mistake. I want to call it an absolute stupid mistake. But
Hey,
I
now.
got a spare, so I was able to just pull it out of my box of spares. I can get back in action instead of having to order this because you're not going to find it locally.
And waiting, you know, it may be back ordered at that time. You may have to wait weeks, months, whatever.
I have 3 of those customized pins. I take offense at that stupid remark.
Well, for me, I'm going to call myself stupid because I know better. I've done it before.
So basically, whenever you start reloading, get to know the feeling of your press. If something feels wrong, that is your first chance to stop and look.
Yes.
I mean, this is going to be very weird. What I'm going to say is, you will feel something wrong before you see something wrong whenever you reload.
That would be my one gripe about a Lee press is the long arm on it gives it plenty of leverage, and it's difficult to feel when you bend that pin over.
Well, with rifle, yes, because you are putting more pressure on it anyway to resize the entire case. Most of my reloading is with pistols, and most people are like, "Oh, pistols, you don't have to worry about it." Yeah, there's some brass case pistol stuff out there that is, it's Berdan primed. I've ran into multiples of those.
7.62 by 25 Tokarev.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
That Bulgarian surplus everybody likes. It's Berdan primed.
Yep, it's also steel case. I've even ran across 9mm stuff that was Berdan primed.
Gotcha.
So you, some cases you can push through it. I've done that, and I've reloaded it with Boxer Prime just fine. Usually, you don't want to push through it.
I'll tell you, to be honest with you, if it is a cartridge that isn't obsolete, I would just cast aside the Berdan Prime stuff.
I do that with 9 and stuff like that, yeah. But if you, let's say you have K31, you could buy brand new K31, the 7.5 Swiss right now. You could buy brand new stuff. I have 200 pieces of brass of that I bought brand new from PPU. But anytime I fire that, I fire it with military surplus stuff. I pick up the damn brass.
The Berdan Prime stuff, we shouldn't say that it's common. Tony's bringing up a good point. However, one of the reasons you reload is because the ammo's expensive, or because it's hard to find, or because you're trying to duplicate a specific load that they don't make anymore, like a military loading from last century or something like that. Mm-hmm. You get your hands on some surplus ammo and you say, oh, hey, I'm going to try to reload this. Just be aware that it could be Berdan Prime. Yep. So it's something that you could find, you're more likely to find reloading than just shooting it and throwing it away.
Yeah, and what he's talking about with the old loadings that they aren't making anymore. Like, I have a Chilean Mauser from the late 1800s. The rifling was cut for 175 grain round nose, not Spitzer. So the lands and grooves are cut in that rifle for a very long bearing surface. It'll shoot better with a very long bearing surface. You cannot go out and buy 7mm Mauser with that round nose anymore. But you can still go out and buy those projectiles. So you get this brass, and you want to get it back to factory loading so the gun becomes as accurate as you can possible. That's a great thing about reloading.
Something that was on, this is kind of the end of the brass discussion here, cut down and formed brass. If you're going to do any kind of custom work on your brass, where do you begin? What do you use to cut down brass with, and what kind of procedures do you need to follow? Give me an example of something we could cut down and use for a different caliber.
30-06
blackout.
Yeah. Right, let's talk 300 blackout, because that might be something a lot of people might consider, right? So what's the first step? What would you need to know about converting 5.56 to 300 blackout?
There's 2 ways to do it. You could either, expand the neck first or cut it. Most people cut first. So what you do is most people use like little
saw.
circular
Yep.
saws, yeah, and they'll cut the end of the brass off a little bit longer than what they need, and then they'll go ahead and run it through a normal die and create your shoulder, and then they'll go and do their normal brass prep with their trimming.
Can I interject something here?
Yeah.
I just cut off some damaged ends off 44 Magnum cases to 44 Special Length just to not throw the damn cases away. And I used a little pipe cutter, and it worked just fine.
Okay.
And here's the difference in case length between 44 Magnum and 44 Special. This one's not cut down. These are some that I'm going to reload. So this is the case length difference Tony's talking about.
How do you secure that brass to cut it? Do you where would you put it to cut it? In the press itself and do it, or? Oh, okay.
If you want to see a video of somebody cutting 223 down to 300 blackout, I believe Deuce and Guns, BC from Deuce and Guns, has got a video on how he did that and then reformed the brass.
Okay.
With the tubing cutter, you can't put too much pressure on it or you'll deform the case. So, if you are holding it with your left hand and turning the cutter with your right hand, you want to keep light pressure. And it works out pretty well. It takes a couple minutes, but
yeah.
I was doing 4 cases, so it wasn't like, I'm spending the day.
So, Nice Strike, I have a question for you. Nice Strike, do you do any reloading at all? Because,
No, not really.
Have you thought about getting into it?
I have.
Say with your set me.
Mostly just 223.
Okay.
5.56 if I do.
Yeah.
If you're smart, you'd reload 45 ACP.
Maybe some 45 if I actually broke down and bought expensive brass casing. Because all the 45 I buy is aluminum or steel cased.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't go to a range much to pick up stuff except your own.
Yeah.
So.
I don't need to. I've got my own.
I would just lay a tarp out next to me out in your backyard and just shoot, and the shells just go right on the tarp, and then you're good to go.
Well, I've got a tarp now. I can do that.
Nice. Okay, so here's a question I got for you guys. I know that there's a difference in the loading pressures between 223 Remington and 5.56. Is there a case difference in the length of the case between 223 and 5.56?
No.
Okay, so if somebody picks up brass, they don't have to worry about any. They could interchangeably use a box of 223 Rem brass and load it to 5.56 specifications?
No. The case is a little bit different. What I do is I have a 5.56 gun, and whenever I do any reloads, I reload it to 223 specs.
Right.
I do the same.
Case is thicker for 5.56 slightly.
Yes.
Okay, and you can load it to 223 specs with no issues at all in terms of burn time or accuracy.
Correct.
So the thicker case with less oxygen volume inside the case isn't going to cause problems with the burning of the powder?
No.
They'll probably give you a higher velocity because of a higher pressure.
Okay.
The thing you'll find is that your reloading manuals do not offer 5.56 info at all, just 223.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay, anything else about brass, guys, before we move on to the next little area that we have to discuss?
Somebody was
Brass.
talking about work hardening brass. It is fairly simple to resoften brass, and you just do it just like hardening steel. You heat it up and quench it, and that'll soften brass back up.
You don't have to quench. Most people just let it air dry. Air cool.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the topic of primers. Where do we begin? What do we need to know about primers? Where to source them, limits on orders, limits on the number of primers in your home you can have. What do we need to know about primers?
Primers, I really don't see a big difference in primers from one brand to the next. I don't give a crap about that.
There is a difference.
There is a bunch of different friggin' primers out there, though, and you got to watch, because if your load calls for you to use a Magnum primer, it's calling for that for a reason.
So Magnum primers, whenever they get struck, they have a hotter compound. So usually they will ignite more powder. If you accidentally load a Magnum primer in a non-Magnum case, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's not
going to do anything. But so with primers, the main difference, and I'm talking about, let's just do small pistol primers, and this pretty much goes with the other ones. It's not the reliability, it's not the compound or anything. It's the softness of the primer. What I'm saying is the metal that it's made out of, the cup, the softness of that. So I know for competition, people like extremely light triggers and stuff like that. So they'll go with Federal primers. That is the softest primer out there for pistol. A lot of people, whenever they go to any semi-auto rifle that does not have a firing pin spring in it, they don't want to go with a really light primer because you have that floating firing pin spring, and whenever that bolt comes forward and locks up, your firing pin is independent of that and will actually go and tap your primer. So if you have a really, let's say you run Federals in your rifle that doesn't have that, there is a likelihood of you to have a runaway gun just because of your floating firing pin.
Okay.
It doesn't happen often, but it can happen.
Now I've not used Federals. I've used CCI and Winchester both.
CCI is on the hard side. CCI is a little bit softer than military. Winchester is softer than that. I think it's Federal, Winchester, Remington's, CCI, and then your Stella and Bella and stuff like that is in there as well.
What would be
I have not seen a freaking dime's difference in their reliability. They both function fine.
That's true.
If somebody was going to go buy, is there one trusted brand of primer? Say they want to do 5.56 or 9. Is there one recommendation we could give to the listeners that they really can't go wrong with that would function in about anything? What do you guys recommend?
I use
one
brand.
CCI.
I use CCI exclusively.
I use CCI and Winchester both, and like I said, I don't have a problem with it. I would, if I was going to recommend, I would probably lean to CCI.
It's more available.
Okay.
That's it. In my area,
CCI bench rest primers as
softness. What was that?
What about CCI bench rest primers as like a soft primer? Usually those bench rest primers are
they're a little bit softer. So the bench rest ones, they're more consistent with the powder, with the amount of priming compound in there. It's consistency. Like if you take and you open up CCIs and you look at the back, I've actually noticed a difference inside the priming compound, like thicknesses and stuff. Reliability is fine. I'm not worried about that. But when it comes to bench rest, where you're looking for pure consistency over everything, that's what you get. That's what you're paying for. There's more QC. There's more. You get more out of it.
You're talking about the difference between a competitive load and a plinking load.
As to what primers you buy, check locally, because by the time you pay shipping and hazmat and crap.
Well, yeah, that's another thing too.
Okay. In my experience, if I locally, I can get them for $32 to $35 $1,000.
Now, see, I'm getting them at $29 $1,000 locally here.
Oh wow! I wish. So, in my experience, I live in a small town in Arkansas. If I need more than 5,000 primers of any sort, I will go online and buy them.
Well,
because
that goes for me. That goes to show you the difference in where we're at, because I have other hoops to jump through because I'm in Illinois.
Okay.
So it almost always cheaper for me to buy powder and primers locally, and most of the time bullets, but there's no special restrictions on bullets here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pay a small amount more to buy it at a store and avoid the hazmat fee, especially if I just need a small batch of something. If I can find it, when you go mail order, you do have to worry about it being out of stock. But typically, mail order offers you the wider variety. So, say you need to get 4 different kinds of powder and 4 different kinds of primer, 4 different kinds of bullets. For reloading, and maybe you want to throw in, I don't know, something else, some new equipment or whatnot, or you can go online to several different retailers and find exactly what you want.
You guys
And
need to visit Christopher Coin here and locally.
well, I wish I had a store like that locally, and I don't know how many people in my area reload, but I imagine if somebody opened a store in Metro Detroit that covered 3 or 4 counties. That was nothing but reloading and ammunition, they'd make a killing.
This
So,
place is a pawn shop, actually, but they have one wall, which is probably 24 feet at least. That is just a case of gunpowder. That's all it's in it. Well, no, they have primers on the very end, but they got to have 100 kinds.
Speaking of pawn shops, does SS Pawn carry reload supplies?
No, the gun section is small. He just mainly deals in the firearms, and then he has some boxes of ammo in the back. He might get some reloading items in from time to time. He's primarily your traditional pawn shop, furniture, TVs, video games, laptops, tools, a lot of tools, and that's it. You get half price. You get half price ammo when you buy a gun from him, which is kind of cool.
I wish more stores would do that too.
Yeah.
I have to admit that the Christopher Coin and Pawn there's hardly anything in the store but guns and shooting supplies.
Okay.
Nice.
Coins, but they have went away from being a traditional pawn shop.
But can you still take items in there and pawn them or sell them? Do they?
If it's something they move, yeah.
Same here.
They don't want no part of tools because the internet's got so many freaking cheap junk tools that they can't compete.
Yeah, that's true. Guys like me pushing Harbor Freight, I'm sorry.
I've bought tools to take the dies off and on my press from a pawn shop in Tennessee where they sold reload supplies, guns, and ammunition. So, yeah, I wanted some American-made crescent wrenches, and I didn't want to pay full price for them. And they went in the back, and they dug and dug and dug through all these cheap Chinese wrenches until they found me 2 American-made wrenches. And I just wanted extra because I got sick of taking out of my toolbox to keep on my bench for my dies. I keep a couple wrenches and a few other small tools around where I do work on my guns, so I don't have to go into my main tools that I use for cars or whatever else like that. And it's handy just to have. I mean, a couple adjustable wrenches is really all you need. You can get a little bit more over there, but if you're at the pawn shop, ask around.
Tools you need. Let's touch that for a second.
Yeah. What are some basics because we talked about a few. Yeah.
If you're running a Lee set, and I'm sure that everybody else's sets would require roughly the same setup of tools, but for a Lee, you need a small crescent wrench, a large crescent wrench, a pair of vice grips, 1/8-inch punch, and a small hammer.
You just described what's on my reload bench right now.
There you go. That's the standard issue. That's all you guys need for the tools. Yeah,
pretty much.
Which a lot of us have those things in our toolboxes already, but it'd be nice to have a second set that you can keep around. So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but tools kind of walk away whenever because I only have one set. I am going to be getting a second one just to have on my bench.
Yep.
Well, Lee really doesn't want you to use tools on their stuff to put the dies in the press because they've got it made where it's all finger tight stuff. But you do have to have wrenches to change that decapping pin that you're going to mess up.
And I just did. I just changed that out, and I've got a box end ratcheting wrench, and it's set to the size of that collet, and the other size I forget what it fits, but it fits something else on some of the reload dies. And that and an adjustable wrench to grab that squared off neck there on the top of the die, and I'm back in business.
Yep, I've done that 4 times so far. Actually, many more than that because at first I didn't have the freaking decapper pin set tight enough. Or they didn't or something.
All right. Let's go move on to the topic of powder. Obviously that you're going to need the correct formula for the type of round. What are some of the basics of powder that people need to know?
Powder is not one size fits all.
Okay.
It is very, very different, and you will kill yourself if you don't use the right powder and other people around you.
Yeah.
Right.
So do not go, oh, I have this powder. I'm just going to put an experiment. No, go to what the books say.
You fill your 223 case up with about 20 grains or so of, let's say, tight group. Blow your gun to bits.
You'd probably kill yourself.
Just because you don't fill the case with powder does not mean that it's not going to go off. So for somebody new to reloading, and they put, well, good example is 45 ACP. I mean, you put six grains of powder in that sucker, and with the shadow cast by the inside of the case, you can't even see it down in there unless you get a flashlight or you look up real close. You might say, that isn't going to set this off. This is a heavy bullet. No, it'll set it off. Don't fill up the case. Black powder is a whole different thing where you can't have an air gap between the bullet and the powder. That's a whole separate thing.
So I keep this. Hold on a second. I keep this piece of brass next to me, like in the living room, all the freaking time. Okay. This was probably within the first 6 months of me reloading. I was still doing everything single stage on a turret press. And I just took the auto index out of it. And I thought I did not put powder in a case. And I double charged it.
Ooh. Now, in order to prevent that very thing, when I load, and I don't load big batches, the most I load at a time is a couple hundred rounds. I go from my powder dispenser right to seating the bullet every time. Because there's no way to double charge that. Now, you're talking to a person who has blown a Ruger Super Blackhawk by a little 30% overcharge. And a gun that shouldn't have done that. But it happens. Even on a gun that's considered a tank. They blow up.
I'm trying to...
Boost, did that destroy your gun?
It warped the spring, destroyed the grips. Like it was in a 1911, so the grips just went. Basically, I was shooting and my hands did this.
Popped right out. Okay.
Did it hurt?
No. Luckily, they did not hurt. I'm trying to getting on my phone here to try to get a little bit better picture.
So you say you saved.
Ooh. Whoa, we got a hell of a
Hold on.
Are we good?
I think so. He saved the brass as an example to remind himself, I still have the barrel that I jammed 245 ACP rounds down halfway because of squib loads. So too much pressure, you can blow the gun up. Not enough pressure, you can jam bullets down the barrel, and in which case, once you get a live, one that's got the right amount of pressure behind it, you can blow the gun up. So, yeah, if you want to save a little souvenir as a reminder or as an example, it's not a bad thing to show other reloaders or anybody who's asking, just so they understand that there's, this is just like anything else with firearms. Safety, safety, safety. But somebody shouldn't be intimidated either.
Actually, I want to jump in on this part because of what you said and your name.
Yeah.
Those that he's referring to are called squib loads, which are a load that you prime and you don't put powder in. Now, they have enough power to dislodge the bullet and stick it in the barrel of the gun. I've had it happen to me twice, and fortunately, it wouldn't stick it in far enough for the next round chamber. But if it does chamber, and you pull the trigger with that bullet lodged in the barrel, you are going to not possibly. You're absolutely gonna blow the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I had 2 squibs, one right after the other, and that was it. That's
So on this piece of brass, on this head, down here by this finger, you could see where it flowed into the ejector channel right here.
dang, it cut a groove right in there.
Oh hell, mine! When I did that Ruger, it cut a ring into the base of the frame.
You know, another thing I want to say is if you're getting into reloading, you should have this anyway. But even if you're just a casual shooter, maybe you're somebody who's just you go to the range and do 50 rounds once in a while, you really need to keep a good first aid kit in your vehicle. Because if you blow your gun up, or if you're into reloading, and I would say keep something handy, because you never know if something's going to happen, and I'm just saying, worst case scenario, might be a good idea to consider keeping one in your car, some sort of a trauma kit, or
when you're reloading, double check, quadruple check, all the time.
And as important as that is, when you're reloading, eliminate distractions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I got those squibs.
Somebody hurt.
I would say take your damn phone and go put it in the other room. And I could see that as being something, I'm going to update Facebook. Look, I'm reloading. Double charge. And then pop goes a weasel,
Yeah. Well, I will listen to a chat and stuff like that, but just make sure it's out of reach.
Well, listening to tunes or something like that isn't really distracting because it's just background. But
yeah, I've reloaded 44 Magnum while being on the early watch, but I was more focused on the ammunition than
you
running
were
my mouth.
live. We were watching you,
and you've got more experience. You're probably less likely to cause any kind of issues. So yeah,
I only have more experience because I screwed up. Because I screwed up, I'm more vigilant, and I know that's probably really kind of ignorant, but unfortunately, it taught me a lesson. I mean, thank goodness it was just I was just out a barrel. I wasn't out anything else. But that was one of my very first forays into reloading, and I learned a hard lesson. And now what I'm doing with the ammunition takes precedence over anything else.
Yep.
So with reloading, you will. There's 2 people that have screwed up and people that will screw up.
I'll tell you a story about the powder thing. My cousin had a Savage 110 Hunter in 270. He went up and he bought from a gun shop a can of Winchester 231 because the guy at the shop said, yeah, you can use it. You got the right load data. He went home and he used the Lee powder measure, the dipper, and he loaded this thing by volume. And this gun came apart, shot the barrel about 25 feet or so.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was impressive to see. I've got a scar on me from where it part of the
shrapnel, basically. Yeah.
So with powder, it is in grains. Pistol powder, you will use anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe 6 grains at the top. Rifle, 223, you're almost every powder right around 23 to 25 grains. Of course, your full size, you'll be in the 46 grain area.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll tell you that.
So if you're about to reload and you're just make sure that you are using the correct rifle powder. So the difference between rifle powder, pistol powder, and shotgun powder, those are the 3 main powders, types of powder, is the burn rate. Because you have a rifle that will burn, have at least 16 inches or more of area for that powder to burn in, it will use that entire length to burn. So it's a slower burn to get your pressure up and to get your bullet out there. Whereas a pistol, you may have your cylinder, for just a revolver, or in a semi-auto, you may have up to 5 inches. So you got to get your projectile up to speed in that 5 inches, because as soon as it leaves your barrel, that's as fast as as fast as that round is ever going to go. So it has to get going from 0 to whatever you are shooting it at the end of your barrel in that couple inches. So your pistol powders will burn faster. And
now, I want to add something right here. Do not mistake the idea that faster is going to give you better or hotter loads, because in certain guns, slower burning powders are the way to go, like the 44 Magnum. 44 Magnum really likes a medium fast powder like Winchester 296 or Ogden H110. There's a couple others. But if you put a faster powder in it, like Tight Group, you cannot even approach the power that you can with the slower stuff. So,
and if you're using a powder measure and you've got it dialed into a certain weight in grains, and you've checked it and checked it and checked it, so it's so many grains, and then you change out the powder in that measure, and for some reason you're using the same, say you've got it set to 5 grains, and then you change to a different powder and you go to, oh, it's already set to 5 grains. Don't trust that. Powder comes in 3 shapes: stick, ball, and flake. And that will change how much actually comes out. So just because you've got it set for 5 grains of stick powder does not mean it will disperse 5 grains of flake powder.
And let's say you have 2 different ball powders. It could be, Silhouette and something else. Just because you have it set up for, what he was saying, 5 grains of one powder is not going to be the 5 grains of another powder, even though they're the same shape of powder, because the density is different between the powders. So it's
correct.
Everything goes based on density, like how many grains is density of whatever. So grains is a weight. There's 7,000 grains in a pound. So we're talking, when we're talking pistol powder, we're talking about very minute amount of weight. And if you're not, if you pull the handle and you see the bullet and you're like, I don't know what's in that, pull the damn bullet.
2 things here. There's a 4th shape, which is Cheerio shape.
Yes.
A la Trail Boss. And the powders, there's such a small volume of powder for the power that it produces. The difference in like Trail Boss, you can fill the 44 Magnum case with Trail Boss till the bullet touches it, and you've got about 7 grains. 7 grains of Tight Group, and you have a hard time seeing it in the case. It's so far down there, but it will be hotter.
May I tell my my Trail Boss experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I tried developing a subsonic load because Trail Boss is really, really good in rifles for making subsonic loads. I had very good results with 7.62 by 54R subsonic loads. They're incredibly quiet for what it is. But I tried doing a 223 Remington, basically a subsonic load. So I got everything together. I had all the, basically all the load data set out. I loaded, I took it to the range. It was really quiet when I shot the first round, and then I always checked the barrel after it, since I knew that I was dealing with a very low powder charge round. Then I put a second round in the chamber, and I pull the trigger. I hear pop. I see the bolt rack back and the shell eject. I'm like, okay, that's pretty neat. It ejects shells. And then I was thinking, I was like, oh boy, what? I'm gonna check the barrel anyway. So I ended up checking the barrel, and I couldn't see daylight through the barrel. Here I had gotten a squib load. The round ignited. The round went straight down the barrel, and then as soon as it got past the gas block, it dumped all of that powder energy through the gas tube, and that's what ejected the case. Had I not checked the barrel and put another round in, I would have easily blown up my gun, even with a low power round like that.
Now, one of the faster pistol powders is listed somewhere for a subsonic load. I think it's Tiger, but it might be universal.
There's a bunch of getting a subsonic rifle round, other than something that's developed for subsonic, like 300 Blackout. I would consider that advanced, because you are using advanced reloading, because you're using a pistol powder in a rifle for something that a rifle's not meant to do.
And also, when you start shortening the cases of powder volume, you run the risk of creating extreme pressures for some reason.
Well, okay, so the reason is this. Powders are made to burn. They don't explode. So they're made to burn back to front. So if you have, whenever you have a case and you have it filled to recommended specs or SAMI specs, whenever you light your primer, that the flash hole is in the back and it burns back to front. Whenever you have a low volume in there, it's I can't remember what it's called, but as that flame comes out from the primer, and instead of burning from the back of the powder charge to the front, it burns from the top down, because there's no powder there. So that it'll flash and it'll burn a lot more than it is meaning to or designed to, and it will spike your pressure inside your chamber and can blow up your gun. So too much powder is a bad thing, but a lot of times if you overcharge, you can get away with it, because of the books do neuter the rounds on charges, and the guns are usually built to handle excessive pressures. Whoa. But whenever you have a low amount of powder in a case, guns are not designed to handle that.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah. Travis M, man, welcome, dude.
Buddy.
Welcome back.
Hey, I'm just gonna poke in here a minute and say hi, but there's something I wanted to kind of jump in on that too, because I was listening from experience too. I have an 8mm Mauser. It's actually an old G98-40. It's awesome, cool gun, very rare. One of the things you see with certain rifles too, especially old military rifles, is variances in bore. My Mauser, it's not a Mauser, it's a Mannlicher rifle, but it's Mauser Action, is actually a 323, traditional modern 8mm. Years before that was introduced, they used a 318 bore.
Yep.
So you got to really be careful. Same thing with AK. Sometimes you see 308, 310, 311, up to 312, I think, with some weird, weird things.
Yeah, same with the Mosins. You can get anywhere from a 308, and I've seen all the way up to a 320.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of people that, I mean, that's the kind of thing. Last week, one of the things that a bunch of us stressed was the Lyman book. Get it and read it cover to cover, man, because that kind of stuff is in there, and it's a lot. It could be a lifesaver, you know. I mean, if you start reloading something that's a few hundredths, bigger than it should be, the pressure that can cause can be just catastrophic, you know.
Yeah, shoot it. Go ahead.
A lot of guys who reload a lot, really, especially guys who are reloading for matches and accuracy, tell you is to slug your barrel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is to accurately measure the absolute diameter so you can select the appropriate.
And what slugging a barrel is a lot of people will use a pistol round and push it through their barrel and then measure the lands and grooves so they know exactly how big their bore is.
Gunsmiths do it with lead, don't they?
Yes. That's what I was meaning. Yeah, a lead cast, a soft lead cast, because it's soft enough that it'll get into the grooves and stuff, and yet it's easy enough to pound through your
barrel.
Iraq
Yeah, pound
veteran
it
8888888888 has a how to slug your barrel video. He uses a Finnish M39. So I think he uses a 30 caliber lead ball for percussion revolver. So if you want to know how to slug your barrel, just check out his video.
Yeah, for my whenever I slugged my M44 and my Type 53, I used a 32 caliber lead projectile.
Yeah, I slugged mine with the 431 diameter, supposedly 44 caliber bullet because all of my guns are smaller than that.
Anyway, I got to get out of here. I have a match in a couple hours, and I have to drive an hour to it.
Hey, dude, thank you so much for joining in. Appreciate your knowledge, man, and everything you've shared with us. This is awesome. Very good information.
Thanks, Foos.
See you guys later.
All right, and talking about the the barrel, especially with those old milsurp guns, making sure that you know what you're shooting and what size slug to cast. We're on our final part before we talk about resources. The bullets themselves, the actual slugs and rounds. Where's the best place to buy those? What kind of prices can you expect? Say 9mm, 5.56.
I actually found a really cool place out of Florida called Everglades Ammo.
Okay.
It's a family-run business. It's a guy and his kids, I think, old ex-military. They were in the military, and they're actually doing a lot of sales. They're doing like a 5% sale right now, I think, that I saw. Check them out because that's where I've been buying my pistol. They've got a really good variety, and prices have been. I started using them because the prices were better than I found anywhere else.
For me, the local gun shop that I mentioned, Christopher Coyne, is the best I've found overall. I do use Midway on a sale occasionally, and Extreme Bullets, X-TREME, for plated bullets because they have really good ones, and they're when you catch sales, they're competitive.
Yeah, that's what I found is, if you can kind of hit the internet and you can find some great sales, and especially for plinking, I'm not buying Hornady XTPs or anything like that. I'm just buying generic, what they consider, what we would consider a generic, total metal jacket or cupped open lead back full metal jacket or something like that, just to shoot at the range,
Man, well, I'm looking at Everglades Ammo right now. What blows my mind is how much cheaper it gets in bulk. I mean, it is very dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking, you can save, going from 100 to 500 bullets, you're going to save $30. Yeah. Not counting, okay, they say they have fast and free shipping. So, because I'm like, 100 bullets for $16, that's not a good deal. But then you step up to 500, it's like, okay, now I'm really knocking down the price. So I see why you guys buy 500, 1,000, 5,000 of whatever you do, whether it's brass or bullets, and so on.
Yeah, my grandpa used to always say, like, go ahead and buy it. It doesn't eat anything.
The only ammo that I buy in bulk is ones that I can't reload, like my 5.45 by 39. Whereas if you pick up, say, 1,000 cases, really get that done in like a few days.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question. I'm looking at my feed here, and I don't see the chat underneath. Is that possible for me to see that or no?
There's a little arrow that you click on. You're on your phone. There's a thing that will say live chat. It might be below the...
Oh, I see it.
You click on the arrow, and it'll drop, and then you'll see the actual chat going on the YouTube side. Okay, it should show you. There's a little red dot that says like live chat with a little arrow pointing down like an arrowhead. If you touch that, it'll drop the screen open for you.
I have a little yellow box that says live, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't... I don't know. I mean, I just have to play with it one of these days, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if you want to watch the chat, you have to open another window from the Hangout.
Oh, I guess I've never done it from the Hangout itself. I've only done it watching it on the YouTube side. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that works on your phone when you're in a live podcast. Oh, so Tony says you can open it.
I'm in Hangouts, and I don't know if I can see the chat.
Okay.
Right, you'd have to open the chat either on the gun channels or YouTube.
Are you talking about the internal chat that we're doing right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, no,
yeah, I'm not sure of it. Oh, just in general. Okay.
I would need a second to do it possibly.
Yeah. Continuing the discussion on bullets and slugs and so on, casting your own, is that anything that you guys do?
I do not.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm saving lead that I pick up at the range. People have given me lead, wheel weights that I found on the side of the road, stuff like that. I'm saving up because eventually I would like to cast my own. But that's mostly because of my black powder cartridge rifle and my cap and ball revolvers.
Okay.
But I could make my own for center fire, modern ammunition, and then I could powder coat it.
Nice.
I think you're going to find that trying to make your own for a center fire rifle that's doing any kind of muzzle velocity is going to be problematic because the lead just won't hold up.
Yeah, it's soft.
No. Instead of casting your own as a machinist, I did have experience basically machining my own solid copper rounds. I only made like 10 of them. And they worked pretty well. And with that, you can actually customize how they look, which is, I think, is the best option if you want to make your own. But if you're not into like machining or anything, then it's not really that interesting. So,
yeah.
Now, for most handguns, that's a different deal because handguns generally are not that kind of velocity, and they will take probably 1,200 feet per second muzzle velocity without suffering from deformation. I used a lot of plain lead.
This was it.
44 Magnum.
Okay, now we do have a question over here on the chat side here. Well, we're getting somewhat close to finishing up here. When buying 30-06 hollow points, should I look for ones that have slits cut in them around the hollow point?
I do not.
Okay.
It depends on what you want to do with it. If you want them to expand on impact as like a hunting round, then yes. If it's for like a match grade hollow point, no.
If you want them to expand, you're probably better off looking at soft point.
Yeah. Or like the FTX tip or whatever, going along something along those lines. Because there's so many different types of rounds out there that you can get.
There's a ton of stuff. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there now.
One thing I wanted to back up a little bit. My mic was off. Was there's a lot of pistols out there nowadays. Well, I don't know, not a lot, but there are pistols out there nowadays with certain rifling that you're not supposed to use lead in. Polygonal rifling. And my Bursa is the same way. It has a polygonal rifling that they recommend you don't use lead because of the amount of leading that you get. I don't have any experience with it, but maybe one of you guys do.
You just have to clean it a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say because we're talking like just a raw lead slug that doesn't have the copper plating on it.
Yeah.
You can use plated or coated bullets just fine in those though.
Yeah.
Something to consider also. All right, guys. So last thing here is we kind of come to the end. Resources. What are some tried and true resources for people that are getting into reloading? We talked about this before in the last episode. What are some absolute must-haves if you're going to do this?
Reload manual.
Yep.
You said the Lyman.
Lyman's 50th or the 49th is good too. I got both.
Yeah, I have the 49th.
If you're reloading for handguns, there's one out there that's called Reloading for Handgunners or some shit like that. That's a really good book of information. It doesn't have a wealth of load data. It does have a bunch of info.
Okay.
Ogdenreloading.com.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, you can get information for free online from the powder manufacturers, from the bullet manufacturers, and that sort of thing. Be careful about forums because you're getting people's personal formulas, and that may or may not be a good idea. However, if you are going to buy a reload manual, I think a lot of people go to the Lyman because it's affordable. Some of the reload manuals that are out there, and they're not necessarily mainstream, you got to go looking for them online or whatnot, are fairly expensive. And that may turn somebody off from saying, hey, I'm not spending $50-$60 on a book. But if you go online and you look for the free data, it is there, and it's legit. If it's from a manufacturer, it may be limited. That's the other thing too. A manual may only have a certain brand of powder and a certain brand of bullet listed for each caliber, and I don't know if it's because that's what that company makes, or they're affiliated, or they're sponsored, or whatnot. But you may get, reload supply manufacturer X makes a reload manual, and they only use Barnes bullets and IMR powder, or something to that effect. So you may want to have more than one manual, or go online and look at these manufacturers' free resources for reload data.
Well, to that end, there is, reloading manuals put out by Barnes, by Hornady, a couple others too. And, you're not going to get, Sierra does one. Sierra's I actually like, but you're not going to get the wide range of bullet data that you really need. Go to the Lyman's because it seems to be the
kind
most
of the go-to,
the most inclusive of the ones that I've had. And there's a lot of data. The first quarter of the book is just information about reloading, what you need, do's and don'ts, and et cetera, like that. It's well worth $20.
Yeah, $20 is not unreasonable. And I mean, if you want to get a whole library of them, you're going to spend the money. And reloading, it does cost a lot. I mean, because you keep adding and adding and adding to it, but that's part of the fun. I guess it's just a matter of what you really want to spend. But if somebody said, I just want to get one book, what do I get? My go-to would be the Lyman, and I hear a lot of other people saying that too.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would get the Lyman first.
Another resource is other reloaders. Whether you talk with somebody at the range, or whether you've got some friends that are into reloading that have been trying to get you into reloading, or whether or not you just get onto gun channels and talk to people, there are resources out there. I've looked in the forums, but I don't really use the forums. I got to say, there's enough people on gun channels that you can ask questions to. And sometimes some people might be a little intimidated and say, I don't want to ask this question because it's a stupid question. But you can talk about it, or you can read about it all you want, or look at a video. Until you actually buy the equipment and put it in yourself, you may not necessarily understand what exactly they're talking about. And then you go and use it, and you go, oh, okay, now I get it. But there's a lot of people that you can go to and ask questions about, and they're usually pretty helpful because reloaders, they enjoy what they do, and they like seeing other people get into it because they know they're going to enjoy it as well. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Also, if somebody comes up to you and says that I'm about to say in any form, starting with, this is an Elmer load, this is a Keith load, this is an Elmer Keith load, run away. Elmer Keith was insane with what he was willing to try with a handgun.
He's the guy who invented the 44 Magnum cartridge. I've heard that he had some involvement on the 357 Magnum, but he wasn't the actual inventor of it. And he used to do a lot of Wildcat, like heavily loaded, just hunting cartridges, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is Keith was badly burned when he was a kid. So he had no sense of feeling in his hands. So he didn't feel recoil.
Oh, man. Lucky man. What about, real quick, brand of caliper and brand of scale, digital scale? Obviously, two of the most important. What do you recommend?
I absolutely don't care. I mean,
as calipers,
as it's calibratable.
A lot of the calipers that are out there, they're all made in China. I mean, there are some that are made in Japan. The Mitutoyos are high quality. And I haven't seen American-made calipers in a while, but there may still be some out there. I used to use them at work for measuring steel for prototype car parts and whatnot. A lot of the guys would get the Mitutoyos. They're a little pricey, but they seem to work. I've used Starrett. They seem to work okay, but for reloading, you can just buy the RCBS or the Hornady brand or whatnot, because the reloading supply companies contract out to these manufacturers that a lot of these digital calipers, they're all, I mean, I don't want to say they're all made in the same factory in China, but they probably are. I've got Hornady and Lyman, and they work just fine. You can get a dial caliper if you're old school. I've seen some people use those, but I prefer the digital. And then as far as the scale, you know, you're either going to get a mechanical scale, a beam scale, or you're going to get a digital scale, or both. I recommend both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. Definitely.
Old school. I have an old school dial caliper. I like it. It kind of forces me to slow down a little bit, and there's just something about the digital that I just don't trust. It's weird not to trust it, I guess, but just to have the dial and.
Yeah,
I have both, and I've checked them against each other, and they're both spot on. So
yeah,
the problem with dial caliper is when you get to be old, like I am, you can't read it no more.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, we're all getting there. Trust me.
Yeah. Maybe we need to make. Okay, so today we discovered we need to make. We need some 545 brass. Is that what we said? We need 54. No, we need some 762 by 39 brass in bulk. We need 545 brass in production, and we need large, easy to read scales for old people. There we go.
Well, that's the digital.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, get with the bigger screen on them. That would definitely come in handy. Oh man.
To be honest with you, as far as the caliper goes, handgun wise, I never use caliper to measure. I stack it up against a new loaded round. If it's the same, I'm fine. The only time I've ever used it was when I cut them cases down from 44 Magnum to 44 Special.
Okay.
Rifle cases have a tendency to grow, but handgun rounds really.
Yeah. All right, so the last section we had was advanced reloading, but I think I'm going to go ahead and stop here because I think we're at a pretty good spot for a lot of people just to kind of get their feet wet, so they know where to begin. And that was my goal for myself included. I'd like to get into reloading 9 and 5.56. AWAG, do you have any parting words you want to leave with the viewers, with the listeners about reloading in general?
Stay safe. First rule.
Definitely.
And don't do stupid things. Don't do stupid things in reloading. That's a game you don't want to play.
Okay, good point. Squid, anything you want to share with us?
If you want to get into it, don't be intimidated. Don't be surprised at how much it costs, or that start reloading at first caliber, that you want to start loading more and more and more, or you want to try greater varieties, or you want to buy extra equipment, or you want to get equipment that works faster, or you find one brand works for you and it doesn't work for your buddy, and that sort of thing. It's fun to get into. Just make sure that you've got the time, the space, and the money to dedicate into it. Otherwise, put it on Craigslist and I'll buy it off you used.
Or I will. I need one. Tony, what about you? Anything you want to say before we go?
I've got several things. First off, powder is not powder. Be sure you know what you're using and what it's for. Secondly, don't worry about the name brand shit. If you want to get into it, Lee stuff is just fine to start with.
Absolutely.
I've been using it for 35 years, and it works for me just fine. And buy 2 scales. That's critical. Check yourself.
Exactly. All right. And Travis M., thanks for joining us, man. Any parting words, reloading experience, anything you want to share before we go?
I think the biggest thing is to just respect the craft and know that there are limits to what you can do and what you should do. You know, in NEA's chat the other day, they started talking about motorcycles. And I think it's kind of the same thing. You got to respect your bike. You know, you got to respect its limits and you know, and be careful. And it's the same thing with guns. You just, you know, and reloading in general is don't push yourself. You know, loading hotter and hotter and hotter, you know, is for some reason people love that. Some people. I'm the opposite. I'm shooting for accuracy and for fun, and I think a lot of people sort of push the boundaries a little bit too much, and it gets really dangerous, man. It can get dangerous.
That's an important point to make too. Fast is not necessarily accurate.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, that's it. I mean, I got into it a few years ago, and I love it. It's relaxing, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. Like, I'm one of those goofy guys that does measure every pistol round, even though I don't need to. I don't know why I do it, but it's more of a perfectionist thing for me, and you know, it adds a little bit of you know, you're a little bit, for me, you know, to shoot something that I know I took my time with adds a level of pride to it, you know.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's fun.
And we did have one last question here from Caleb's RC Crawlers. He says, with every grain you go up on a bullet, I'm assuming we're talking are we talking grain weight of the slug or the grain weight of the powder? With every grain you go up on a bullet, how much drop, should you expect if you started at 150 grains and hit center at 100 yards?
Everything's going to be different. There's so many factors, I think, with, some bullets, as they get out longer, they lose their accuracy. You would have to increase or decrease the charge anyway. I mean, there's so many factors in it.
You just got to check the ballistics from the manufacturer, and you can usually find that pretty readily on all their websites.
Yeah.
That's a question that's absolutely impossible to answer.
Yeah.
There's so many factors involved, and you guys buy these scopes that have the bullet drop compensators, and then they wonder why the hell they're not shooting dead on at 200, 300, 400 yards, and you've got to take so many factors into it.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, you can get ballistics calculator tool apps that will give you as good of a prediction as possible at the temperature, humidity, wind speed, angle. Yeah. You could probably get it down to a certain point, but
it is, and that's what I mean. That's something that has a whole lot of variables that you can type in. If you're just looking to change your point of, if you've got an etched reticle, it's going to be different for every gun, every bullet, every day. So it's hard to say.
You're starting to get into the characteristics of the coefficient of the bullet. There's a lot involved in that.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother discussion.
I don't know that you can get into that one online. That'd be brutal.
All right. So, guys, I do want to thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate you coming in here. We hung out for almost an hour and a half, longer. Some of you guys that got in here sooner. Travis, and welcome to Hangouts. Welcome to the live podcast world.
It's
addictive,
for having me,
man. Once you start doing it, you're going to find yourself Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night online.
I had too much going on. It's hard to find the time, but
no, I said the same thing. I said the same thing, and here I am. But if you got to be somewhere at that time, I get it.
Well, I am. The boss isn't here though, so I'm okay right now.
Yep. There you go. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
I thought you were the boss, man. I thought you ruled the kitchen, dude. I wouldn't talk back to you.
It depends on who's here, I guess. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm running the kitchen when the boss isn't here. So as long as the stuff's getting done, I can play around a little bit.
Now you can use metal utensils on non-stick cookware. Yay!
I'm in this damn thing 6 days a week.
I know Tony, man. He's a career, man. He's a career podcaster. That's awesome. It's very cool.
It's great.
So
it's just nice to be part of a community that's like-minded. You know what I mean? It's really great.
Yep.
Tony, there's a lot of us that ain't exactly like-minded.
Well, you're right.
Or if you're into guns, you're a friend. Is kind of a common ground we can all find to a certain point, And I found everybody on gun channels to just be awesome. I'm not kidding you. I think I made more friends. I consider you guys friends on gun channels and the podcast than I think I did when I was in college. People actually talk to on a regular basis and communicate with and share. I mean, it's just cool,
Yeah.
And then you can talk about other stuff too. Look at Matt's chat. We went from guns to motorcycles in like 5 seconds,
Oh God, that's my job on the early watch, steering them back to guns.
Oh yeah. You start talking about all kinds of stuff.
I will say real quick.
Yeah.
Just to poke in there too. Like I can't see the chat. So if anybody has a question for me and I happen to be here, Travis, if you would sort of verbalize that to me, that'd be awesome.
Oh, definitely. We can do that for you.
Not that anybody gives a shit about my opinion, but
Well, you got experience in these areas. If there's some kind of knowledge you can share, it's all good.
A little bit. Yeah. If you need a recipe or something, let me know.
I was gonna say, if anybody wants some cooking advice, you can TM's on point for you. So, joining us in the chat here, guys. Go ahead, Tony.
I said cooking with lead and gunpowder.
Hey, there you go. Guns and Food, the new channel. There you go. That's all you need to know.
Cooking goes with hunting.
Just make sure you keep them separated.
How to boil water and reload.
Yeah.
Okay, Caleb does have a quick question for you, Travis. What's your favorite rifle that you own?
Oh boy, I just bought a new rifle and I haven't shot it yet, so I'm like super itchy to get that out. I picked up a Savage 10 FCP SR in 308.
Oh, I have one of them. I love it.
Yeah, I put a
new girlfriend's always the most exciting.
Yeah, I put a Vortex Viper on it with the 5.6 by 20 and a little bubble level and stuff on it. It's really sharp.
Nice.
But
Let's have
my,
everybody
nice.
answer that.
yeah, but my probably the one that I started reloading for is one of my favorites. It's a 1943 G9840 Hungarian Nazi occupation rifle. Okay, Forgotten Weapons has a really cool video on it if you want to look it up. And not mine, obviously, but the series of guns. And it's really accurate. I'm shooting like 1.2 MOA with hand loads, and that was the first thing I reloaded for. So I had a lot of ups and downs, not ups and downs, but little experimentation. Travis, I sent you a text or some text about my experience with a hang fire and a squib load, sort of a squib load. But that's a cool rifle. That was bought. He bought that back in the 50s in a barrel of rifles at a yard sale for $5. $5. He picked up 6 rifles. It was 5 22s, 5 different 22 rifles, in this Mauser style rifle.
Ooh.
And back in Pennsylvania, you can buy and sell long guns without a permit or without a FFL.
Yeah, it's the same here in Nebraska too. Yeah.
Yeah. So back in the day, I mean, and still now, you go to a yard sale and people can sell you stuff. So he brought that thing home, and a couple of years ago, I got it from my uncle, and I cleaned it up, and that's what I learned to reload on. So it's near and dear to me, and it's something from him. So that's the long and short of it.
All right. Hey Tony, what about you? What's your favorite rifle? While we're
Marlin 981 stainless synthetic 22.
Nice.
Fun. Squib, what about you? You got a favorite rifle out of all those rifles in the vault?
M1 Garand.
Oh yeah.
At least it's
Pretty
a 30
nice.
6.
Yeah.
You can do almost anything with an M1.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are so cool. AWAG.
Oh boy.
Favorite rifle, man.
Ooh, that's a tough one. To tell you the truth, it's probably going to be my AK-74 with the Bulgarian parts kit that I hand built. Which
nice.
You can't exactly put together an AK like you can an AR. You have to almost it sounds very crude, but you have to like forge it. You have to do everything manually. It's honestly, I think it's a work of art.
Not for the meek.
No.
Yeah.
Not for the faint of heart either, because there was
While
lots of throwing tools and swearing.
While we're here, let's throw handguns out there too. What's your favorite handgun?
Let me chime in with my favorite rifle. I have a I don't know what the year is. That's all good. I've got like I don't know if it was the last year that they produced the Hex. It's I think it's an Izzy or it's a tool. I'd have to go back and look. My Mosin, I've got one that's not counterbored yet. It's just in immaculate condition. I bought it from Cabela's when they had them for like $125 a couple of years ago. And I love shooting that thing. I just love shooting the Mosins because it's cheap to shoot. It's fun. It's a challenge to try to be accurate with it. I love that one. The wood's in perfect condition. I can never bring myself to part with it. So I would have to say that's it.
Once you start reloading, you don't have to buy that steel crap, and you'll be buying all brass, and you'll be loading your own, and it'll be that much more fun.
Yeah, the Tula ammo can sometimes stick. I mean, the thing is completely free of cosmoline. I mean, it didn't even have any when I bought it from the store. It was unreal. They brought it out of the back, and it was kind of funny. The 2 guys working the counter didn't even know they had it in one of the crates in the back, and it was one of the ladies working there that found it for me. So it was to me, that's a special rifle. I mean, that's just my favorite one. It's just so simple and so brutal and right to the point. So handguns, Travis M. What's your favorite pistol? Or what do you own? Anything in your collection?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of guns right now. I'm starting to amass, a nice collection, but I really only have 2 pistols right now. I've both of them are Bursa, which I mean you could talk, plus or minuses with them. I have a full-size 9mm that is just a tack driver. That ever since I bought the thing was just a great shooter. And then my carry pistol is I have a Burst Ultra Compact 40.
Oh yeah.
Which is nice. 40 round, 10 mag. It's a little heavy, but I'm kind of a big dude, so I can lug it around. But that 9mm, as beat up as it is now, it's a nickel plating. The finish is going on it.
Yeah.
I take that thing to the range and it just shoots. So it's a lot of fun. And 9mm is inexpensive, and And again, it was one of my first pistols, so it was a learning experience to load for it, and gun care, and you make some mistakes here and there.
Yeah.
So I'm not one to sell guns. I get sentimental about them, and I'm like, oh, this is my first this or my first that, and I got to keep a hold of it. So that's a fun shooter though, as quote unquote low level as some of them are. It's not a SIG, but I don't have the money for a SIG right now, so I'm having fun with it.
SIGs are nice, man. I've only taken a few to the range on testing, and
we actually just bought my wife this year. I bought her a SIG 938.
Oh yeah.
And I'll tell you what, she was very apprehensive about something that small, with worried about accuracy and stuff. Mm-hmm. Out and she went out to shoot a little bit. I stayed in with our son, and she came in and she was smiling. She just said, "Wow, I'm really doing well with it. I'm really doing well with it." And that's a really well-made pistol. I really, really like it.
I had a SIG Mosquito, and I sold it and kept my Phoenix because my Phoenix would kick its ass 7 ways to Sunday.
Yeah.
Little Phoenix arm action there. Tony, what is your favorite pistol?
Hands down, Ruger Vaquero. Best gun in the hand I've ever had.
Is that's your 44 mag?
It's one of them. I've got 4.
Okay. Oh, all right. Squib, what about you, man? You got a favorite pistol?
Oh boy, that's a harder question. 1911, Lamat revolver, Browning high power. Boy, it's a tough call.
You got to pick one. I know it's like picking your favorite child, but which one's the most enjoyable to shoot?
I guess the high power.
There you go.
I thought he was going to say high point for a second. I was about to reach my hand through this phone and slap him.
Dude, the High Point 45 is like he's like using a staple gun. There's like no recoil on that thing. It's like
high points work.
They do.
They're just a cheap Glock.
Yeah.
One of my things that bugs me the most to talk about the gun community is the gun snobbishness. That just it bugs the hell out of me sometimes.
Oh no, being a gun snob is fun.
Rest assured, man, I am not a gun slob, and I dislike those snobby bastards immensely.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to shoot what they like and like what they shoot, and I think there's lemons in everything. Every gun manufacturer that's ever existed has had a gun that's going out that wasn't right, and I think you have to judge each piece individually. What's best for you?
Any of you gun snobs out there, find me a video where they've shot a high point to kill it. They haven't done something else to it or abused it. They've just shot it until it died.
Iraqi veteran had to smelt his to get it to stop working, or they were running like.
They took like a blowtorch to it.
Oh my, yeah, they eventually just had to melt it down so it stopped working. Yeah.
Oh no, I think everybody should shoot what works best for them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm not into some of this tactical crap. It's just a bunch of extra junk hanging off your gun. If you can have a $5,000 rifle with every gadget like a Swiss Army knife, you can't hit the broadside of a barn at 25 yards. Don't talk to me. But
for sure,
that's where you can throw the gun snobbing in, because you've got a basic this, that, or the other, and you're plugging away at 100 yards, and this guy's got. So it can work both ways. You can have a more expensive gun than somebody and do okay with it and, flaunt it. And you can have a less expensive gun and do better than the guy with the gun he thought if he spent money on would make him a better shooter, instead of actually just going out there and practicing and flaunt it. So gun snobbery works both ways. You could gun snob a high point, I guess.
I did. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. That's one of the things with reloading I really liked is, when I got into it, I really got more into the workings of the guns, the history of guns, how they work, and it's not just about like grabbing something out of the safe, throwing a bunch of ammo in it, and starting to just laying waste to a target. When you're loading it yourself, you start to shoot slower, you start to shoot more carefully, and you start to care about the shots because you get so much gratification out of those tight groups.
You are a rare bird. Most of us when we reload shoot a hell of a lot more.
I've got a very hectic life. So for me to go to the range and put the headphones on and listen to a little music and shoot, it's something special. So just going and throwing a whole bunch of lead to me isn't as exciting as it used to be when I was younger.
AWAG, favorite pistol? We got to get to you yet.
Sig P226 in 357 Sig. I adore my little handgun that I have.
Now,
I love it so
that
much.
brings that brings up a point I'd like to make about the 357 Sig and the 327 Federal Magnum. Those cases are the 2 pistol rounds, and maybe that Nagant one, whatever the hell it is, or
Oh,
not
the Nagant revolver.
No, not that. I got the wrong one.
They use
They're the
specific
Mosin
bullets
rifle,
for
7.62 by 54 rimmed.
the case.
No, the 25 version for the
Oh,
handgun.
Oh, the
Tokarev.
7.62 by 25 Tokarev. Yes, I reload that.
Yeah, those cases might creep, especially the Sig one, because it is a bottleneck.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I haven't had very good results with them reloading, but I'm going to just keep trying at it. I mean, they don't even sell a case trimmer for it, which I think is weird, but maybe there's a reason for that.
You can use a Lyman case, the universal case trimmer. That's what I like to use.
I'm kind of a Lee guy, so that's I kind of back myself in the corner on that. I mean, yeah, I could use a universal one. I mean, I haven't had any stretch cases yet, but I can say that I've tried a bunch of different powders and bullets in 7.62 by 25 Tokarev, and I've tried it in 3 different Tokarev pistols, Polish, Romanian, and Yugoslavian, and I haven't had good results. I think it's me. I don't think it's the ammo. I don't think it's the guns. Well, the Yugo one might need a little bit of gunsmithing, but I think it's me.
Do you know the twist rate?
No, I don't.
It might.
You might research that and select bullet weights by that.
No, I'm having problems with feeding. It's either jamming trying to chamber, or it'll chamber and fire and it won't eject, or just a lot of feeding issues. I thought maybe it was the feed ramp on the barrel, but when I went from the Yugo to the Romanian and the Polish, which I've had those longer, I had the same issues. And I put factory ammo in there, shoots great. So I'm there thinking, okay, it's something I'm doing. So I need to go back to the drawing board and do a couple more batches and whatnot. I'm doing something wrong that's causing these feed issues. So it is nice to have a variety of handguns chambered in the same caliber and a variety of powders and bullet weights or bullet types to use to experiment with and say, I mean, I'm still using low data. You can find low data for it, but I'm doing experiments to find out which one works best. Well, first I got to find one that just works. So it must be something I am doing wrong.
The only thing I would look at, first thing that comes to my head is, how is your resizing die doing? Does it resize it back down to the same size as factory ammo?
I could use the calipers and compare the two. I could compare a factory new round to something I just resized. I can see, this is what we're talking about, resources. Here I am talking about what I've done, the problems I'm having, and I've got somebody with more experience here giving me some advice. And this is one of the great things about gun channels, or just being able to socialize at your local range or gun club or whatnot. You can get advice from somebody else who has maybe been there and can save you some time, or at least point you in a direction that I wouldn't have considered checking it after resizing it. Maybe that's what I need to do next. I'm not opposed to it.
The reason I mention that is because I used to neck size rifle cases, and that was an occasional problem with them.
And see, I didn't think I'd have any problems, because so far the rifle stuff that I've loaded, I've done pretty good with that, and I almost feel like a bottleneck rifle case is more forgiving. So this bottleneck pistol case, maybe it's just because it's so stubby. I don't know, but I'll go ahead and I'll resize it, and then I'll compare it to a PPU round and see what I get. You can use calipers to measure the round width. You don't necessarily have to just use them for the length, but I'll check the length and the width at the neck and whatnot, and see maybe if that's it.
It's at least somewhere to start.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate it, Tony.
There you go.
You're certainly welcome.
All right, guys, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I don't see any other questions over in the chat right now. But Travis M., hey, thank you for joining us. He's over on the chat right now on the YouTube side. AC, thanks for joining us. Melvin Nutt, Arctic Fire, Caleb was here. Okay, all you guys that joined me on the panel, thank you so much. Ohio 45 ACP. And pretty much the same people were over on the Gun Channel side, too. So AC97, all right. Guys, thanks for joining us today. We covered a lot of information. Feel free to go back and watch us and jot a few notes down. Make sure that you educate yourself before you get into the world of reloading. Take in as many resources as you can. Hunt around. Stick with your reloading books. We gave you some suggestions for some great resources, just to make sure that you don't get hurt, that you do it properly and you save some money and enjoy what you do. But get yourself into the right mindset before you go into reloading, and you'll be okay. So I think that's it. All right, guys, anything before we jet?
Yep, I'm good.
Good to go? Okay. All right, guys. Well, this has been Caliber Corner number 6. So Night Strike and Foos and AWAG Squib, Tony, thank you guys for joining in today. Travis M., thanks for joining in too. And we will talk to you guys soon. All right, take care.
Thanks for the
Join us
invite.
later, everyone.
Thanks, guys.